Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of Talk Speed Up. This time I'm not going to be speaking fast, but I am joined by two very lovely guests, and of course, your normal host, Kbot, to my right. I'm Ninja. You all know me. I'm the most famous person in the community, and yeah. So, how about the rest of you? Let's go around.
So, hang on. You're like, hello. I'm actually not talking that fast this time.
Was I talking fast?
I don't know.
My
You
bad.
were talking fast there, buddy. What's good, everyone? Of course, I was talking fast last night, most notably in testing grounds. That was a fun cast to do. So maybe we'll get to talking about that just a touch later in the day. But yeah, we're doing all right. We're hanging in there. We're chilling. Life goes on. And hope you all are having a good day too. Also, got the shirt. Let's go.
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Shak, captain of FT Win, 21 years old, 5-time North American champion, entrepreneur, multi-millionaire, mansion owner, 5-time Lamborghini owner, currently enrolled in university. Quit the game.
Right.
And how many copies of arms do you have currently? So you can't count ones you got rid of.
4 copies of arms.
4 copies.
You don't got rid of any of them yet.
I can't believe I forgot about that, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. Damn. Okay. Yeah, I'm Shak.
I got you check here.
Alright, so yeah, I'm Noctis, player from Freeze, and also German champion. I mean, and yeah, like I think you know the word Habibi from me, so yeah.
Actually,
By the way, I'm just gonna put it out there. I think German champion is more prestigious than UK champion.
Okay, I was
just gonna throw that out there.
Look, I was actually just gonna say that I think this is the first episode where everyone apart from the TO person is a national champion. I'm just saying.
There you go.
We have NA, German, and
true.
UK champion here. We'll never know which one is the most prestigious. We'll never know who's gonna beat each other because we never played each other. It's impossible to tell, really, honestly. We have Kaji, who's actually won some the most impressive tournaments, I'd say. So we're probably the best team out of all of them. But
remember examination in Germany is the best.
Oh, true.
I was about to say, let's see. Backsquid's actually won world championships. The first, or wait, no. You guys
take second place.
You guys, okay. You beat NA, which is the important part there. That actually goes back and forth pretty frequently. And then you would also make the argument that Kyo is pretty much won just about everything under the sun. So I don't know if your argument holds, Ninja.
Look, I'm trying my best out here. But moving away from UK, we're going to take a little bit of a boat trip, across the ocean, and we're going to talk about North America and its Open, which happened recently. So I think everyone knows the NA Open. It just happened last weekend. Last weekend
was top 4.
And it's a big tournament. Yeah, it was top 4. Of course, we had the stage before. Did anything big upsets? Anything interesting in the lower stage? I don't think so. But the main thing's top 4. But let's start with that. So, what about the stage leading up to top 4? Did anything notable happen for you guys, or was top 4 the main big thing? So I think top 4 was what stood out for me, really.
I mean, you'll always say the top 4 was the
Yeah.
primary thing that actually caused more weight. Was there a lot of surprises? I don't even remember, to be honest. It was 2 weeks ago. I forget.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think there was a ton.
I think it's pretty standard.
I'm trying to scroll through.
Normal that FT wins NA. So.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, yeah.
No, I think it's probably what you were gonna say. Nothing really happened out of the ordinary, I guess. I'd say this was probably the one of the opens where everything that was expected happened pretty much.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, we didn't have turf war leading up to top 4 this time, which will lead to results that are more normal. You're not going to have it turns out the Slaughterhouse went out in round 1 to Timmy squad because they instead of playing Aerospray or something. So, instead we had a pretty standard bracket leading up to this time. I'd say the most interesting thing that happened before top 4 was Slaughterhouse Sayonara. Even though the match went out in the seeding's favor, that was a really, really fun match. And that was a really, really close match. And it was closer than I expected it to be. It was definitely closer than I expected it to be.
The other thing that so that match was actually insanely fun to watch, and something that I would highly recommend if you didn't get the chance to watch that live, going back and watching. The other one that I think that we didn't talk about. Okay, so I missed 2 top 8 seeds. One was Priority beating Requiem 3-1, and the other was Maelstrom beating Azure 3-1. So those were like the two primary surprises to get into top 8. And then the top 4 advanced from there. And of course, as you mentioned, like the Sayonara barely squeaked by Slaughterhouse there, which was a lot closer than I think a lot of people were expecting. So there's been a lot of like mix-ups towards like the lower end of +1 into the +2 gap that I think for North America, where those have started to become like a lot closer. And I think like that's one of the reasons why a lot of this is like leading up to the tournament is just good Splatoon to watch.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Shaq, do you have any experience in terms of like, is that group of teams getting better or worse? Or I mean, I know FT1 just stomps all of them anyway, but like, you know,
I don't know. I mean, I've always thought like Priority specifically were pretty good, but I don't think they like play like they play competitively, but I don't think they like practice like really hard and everything. I think it's like they're just getting better naturally, just playing for fun. But I think definitely, yeah, like the teams are getting closer, definitely to the +1 level.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have specifically experienced this, but you know, back in the olden days when I was in +2, which I no longer am, the Priority was a bit of an interesting team to scrim, where you could get a good scrim. They're really good players, but every now and then they get bored after 2 games and just pick like 4 squiffers. So I would definitely so I see where you're coming from with the point of like, you know, they're kind of playing for fun and improving while playing fun. They're not maybe always super on the grind, try harding, VOD reviewing, getting coaches in. You know, they're playing for fun and improving while doing it because yeah, sometimes they'll decide to pick 4 squiffers against you, and you know, then you'll feel, damn, maybe we shouldn't be screwing these guys. It really gets to you. I can say from experience, but yeah, I definitely think Priority's a strong team. I would say I expected those to kind of upset results, but it's not like they were, you know, they're the most important crazy results in the world. I don't know what Noah thinks, so.
Right.
Oh, I think Noctis is on deafen right now, so we'll go back to that later. And I think we can start talking about the top 4 matches. So I think the first match we saw was Supernova and Starburst. Or was it FT1 Sayonara?
FT1 Sayonara was first.
FT1 Sayonara. Alright, let's start with that one then.
Yeah, I'm already.
FT1 Sayonara just happened how I expected it to happen, honestly. I don't know about you guys.
Were you expecting Sayonara to challenge you, Shaq? Yes or no?
I guess no, but I felt like it was closer than it should have been. I don't know. I didn't feel like I was playing that well during the Seiyo set. Like I think I bottom fragged every game.
Oh man, what a
Really
troll.
hate to see that.
But like,
Joking.
no, I expected it to be like a 3-0, but they played better than.
What was the score again?
Okay.
It was 3-0.
It was 3-0.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think everything before the bronze match in grand finals was a 3-0. So the 2 top 4 semifinals were both 3-0s. Yeah, I personally, I also want to know what you guys think about Sayonara in general and the difference between, you know, I want to say the old look and the new look, but let me just be explicit. Sayonara with and without Q. What do you guys think about the differences, like their play style, how they differ, or in general? What do you guys think about it?
Well, I feel like they're weaker right now without Q, just because like going from like having a backline to no longer having a backline is pretty hard in my opinion. So like it took us so long to like be able to play like without a backline like and like consistently place well. So I think for Sayonara, like it's just like you have to give them a bit of time and then they'll get like back up there. Like I think they're weaker right now, but I think like after like a month or 2, like they keep practicing with like their same lineup, like they'll be fine and like probably be like top 2 contender.
Yeah, did you have any thoughts, Noctis? If you scrimmed Sayonara at all, like, what do you think about them?
Like I don't know, in my opinion, like if they played with Dread, Q, Bagel, and Sun, that was a best lineup from them, and they was at this time really strong, and also played versus other European teams or other NA teams really good in my opinion. But like when Dread was not anymore in Sayonara and Q left as well, they was way weaker, and then the other player, Burning, was playing for them, and now they play with DJ, I think, and they're way more weaker like than before. And as well, what Shaq said, like we're still playing a backline, and if you played before with a backline, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
I think that like overall, sure, in the immediate short term, when you make a roster change, you are just going to be a little bit weak, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, but here's the thing: is that I don't think, and obviously this isn't a one-for-one comparison, but Sayonara hasn't played like Sayonara is like if you look at Sayonara's legacy, their standout moment was probably Genesis 7. And that was like with Ant as opposed to Q, right? Because that lineup was Ant, Jared, Bagel, and Sun, which was like all frontline, all aggressive, all in your face. So they've had like that sort of a play style before. And I think that's what they wanted to try to replicate here with this roster. But I think it's going to take a little bit more time to fully come online just because, you know, they need to practice with it more, right? And bringing on the addition of DJ, like, you know, DJ hasn't necessarily played with these guys for a lot of months in a row. So I think that like as they continue practicing, they're going to continue getting better. And we already see signs of like promise from them. I mean, like, you know, even thinking back on Inkstorm in early August, they kind of didn't perform very well or like nearly as well as people would have liked to see out of them. Now they're starting to come on back and they're like, sure, squeaking by Slaughterhouse, but I think Slaughterhouse actually had a pretty good tournament that weekend. So I think Sayonara is going to continue improving, and I can't wait to see where they continue going and developing as they get further and further along with this core roster, because I think it's promising. You know, it's just going to take some time to develop.
Yeah, I'd say. Sorry, yeah, Shaq, you go.
Oh, no, I wasn't gonna say anything.
Okay. I mean, I was going to say that I think you can definitely, just like TLDR contributes a lot of it to Growing Pains. I think we could see this roster, you know, be very good. I don't think any of the players are particularly weak. You could argue that maybe some older players are stronger, maybe some older players are weaker, maybe it goes like this. But I think that it's going to be hard to tell with like the second tournament with this new lineup, something like that, second major at least, you know. It's going to take some time before we see more. So we're going to have to wait for, you know, future majors, future tournaments to really see what's going on. But I think, you know, when we look at the other side of the bracket then, I think if we've all started with Sayonara, we look at Starburst versus Supernova. And
Yep.
I found, you know, I think the result was fairly expected. I expected Supernova to come a bit closer. I think the thing that I found interesting from both teams, and most notably Supernova, I think what a lot of people have been talking about, were the team compositions. I think Supernova is the big outlier, obviously. We can go on to those in a second. But I think it was also interesting to see Ice on the heavy throughout the most of the tournament. I think in general, Starburst running like kind of a very hand-ran comp. We don't have paint. We all just have weapons that is going to walk forwards and kill, in a way, with a junior. But yeah, but it has Ice on the heavy as well. What do you guys think?
That's also why they were called Hanron, is because they literally have two players technically on the Hanron roster. I understand they're not the same team. I'm sorry I've made that mistake in the past. But still, you're playing with a lot of these players that know each other, that have played with, you know, one another for a long time. And so Starburst just came out. They have two Hanron players. They have two other players that want to be a little bit, or one other player that wants to be really more aggressive. And then you also have Ice to boot there. And Ice wants to be a little bit more mobile, and the Charger is typically what he historically goes to, but that's something you can't really do, I feel like, or can't be super mobile on, right? It's very much more of a traditional anchor, whereas something like Splatling, you're given a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but I think Heavy Splatling's a little bit underrated. I think that it's really not as bad. I think it did really well in the Area Cup last week. I think it was the team that won were running a Heavy Remix, but I really like Heavy Remix. I always like how FLC called it like a fake backline. It has like squeezer range or something. Like it doesn't have this crazy across the map range that's going to destroy you. I don't know what, like, you know, Shak and Noctis, you guys are, you know, as much as I'd like to pretend that you're not, you guys are the best players here. So what do you guys think about like how Remix is in general or Heavy is as a weapon?
Well, I guess like for Starburst, like I felt like the remix pick was definitely better than the Charger. Like I talked to Ice after the tournament, and like whenever we play against his Charger, we just sit behind walls so he can never get like a shot really. So like he said that his like thought process was that like since like we just never give him opportunities for shots with Charger, at least he can play Splatling and like give support like with paint and mark people. And then like the double booyah is also helpful just for like moving people out of areas instead of just holding like a Charger shot for like ever without being able to actually hit anybody. So I think it's like pretty good, actually, in my opinion.
I'm honest, like I expected that Ice is playing CGS or something, like he played it before when I remember right. And it was kind of unexpected for me that he always played heavy remix. Like it's not a bad weapon or anything. Like he spammed always booyahs, got the paint and so on, and tagged others. But I don't know, like I expected that he plays CGS and kind of yeah, I don't know, like it is in my opinion cooler like if people playing Charger if they one trick Charger because like you can make a lot of pressure with it, like you can one-shot people and so on. But yeah, it was the right pick then. Like they beat Supernova really clean, and also like the one played Explosion, I think. So they had a really slow comp with it as well, and they easily could rush them. Like, what was the lineup of Starbucks? Like, it was Ice, Brand, Jared, and who was the last one?
And
Ants, I
Ant.
think.
yeah,
Ah,
and,
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that's it, I think.
I'd say one thing, kind of on the Charger point though. Would you feel like playing against Remix because you're not against the Charger, you have more space at all? Is that like an issue, or would you say that isn't a thing at all? Like, this is a genuine question. I don't know either way.
Like, in my opinion, like if you play against a good charger, like for example, I don't know, Zeros, Alexei, or other backliners, or Q, for example, like you have pressure. Like if they watching you, or if they're peeking or something, you always need to call them out, or need to hide or something, or like need to care about them, who they are, where they are. I mean, and like if someone is playing heavy or CJS or something, you can move on. Like I don't know, you can go more in front, or I don't know, like it's easier to survive that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Noctis. Like, it's like whenever you like, that there's the potential that like if you move around a corner, you could just get like taken out instantly. Like, Charger puts like way more pressure than Splatling, so like it definitely feels like you can move around the map more freely when you're playing against the Splatling compared to a Charger.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you have any other thoughts, Kbot, before we go on to the
Not a-
Supernova
I
team
mean,
composition.
I'm gonna default
Yeah.
to the people who actually like, have a good
Yeah.
understanding, or like actually the ones playing this game, at the
True.
highest level. I can say all I want about, oh yes, you should be sitting here instead of here, but like in terms of exact weapon matchup, exactly how that plays out, y'all can have that one.
Definitely, but I think then if we look at their opponents, Supernova. So I think the initial comp they ran out with is like double zap Explosher T-Tech? Or was it not a T-Tech?
Yeah, or Splash. I
Or
think that's
Splash, yeah.
But here's the thing with it. The thing with that composition is that they ran it on Splatoon's Humpback Pump Track, and then they ran the same thing the next game on Rainmaker Reef. I think on Splatzone's Humpback Pump Track, it makes a little bit more sense. Like I can understand why you'd want to run maybe double armor. Make the argument for Explosher. They are obviously able to output so much paint on the zone. But then you go to Rainmaker, where you're looking for something that's going to be a little bit more mobile. The double ink armor now only affects 3 members when you're trying to make a push because it won't go onto the Rainmaker. Like, fundamentally, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me on Rainmaker. And I think this is something that a lot of people called out and were like, what's going on here? Like, is there any justification?
from me, like I'm kind of with like everyone. Like, I don't see any reason to play Explo. I don't think it's like that good with Rainmaker. The one was saying that like, sorry, Kara. He was saying that like it got a bunch of buffs, which made it like stronger in general. But I don't think like the buffs make it so like it's good enough in Rainmaker, because I felt like their comp, like their entire thing was like they had 0 on Splash too, so that I assumed they could run Rainmaker forward, let it die, and then get the instant repop. But like all you have for that is Zero's Bomb Rush. Like the Explosion doesn't really help towards that. So like I don't know. It felt like the comp was like kind of weird to me. Like I felt like they were trying to go for like really like quick pushes and like going for repops a bunch, but like then they also played Explosion with, which doesn't really contribute to that. So like it was kind of, I guess, weird to me. Like
Yeah.
I don't agree with that pick, I guess.
Like, okay, you can.
No,
talk.
you go.
Okay.
I can hold it.
Like in my opinion, like Explosion is way too slow at the moment. Like it's important, like that you play fast as a team, as a players or whatever. For sure, like someone is a bit slower. Like for example, is he painting or is he sharking or whatever stuff like that. And I didn't get why like the one was normally playing. I don't know, rapid or sloshing or other stuff, and I wasn't really sawing him like with Explo in his hand. So it was kind of unexpected, and like Dero is from all of them the player who's way faster, is playing faster, and is whatever, like in everything faster in my opinion. So I don't know, they should have played something else like with the comp, or maybe from the strats. Like if they're playing explosives, they would be a strat like that they all need to play a bit slower or something, like in my opinion. Like if you have an explo, you can, like the explo can go like whatever, like
Yeah.
go fast in or something.
I think a team that I'm going to want to talk about later, but thought like a way to add them in now because, we were talking about Explosion, is it the usual guys kind of quote-unquote team, quote-unquote, that's their name, but the Sendu, Brian, Wadsum, Ochiro kind of pickup team, whatever going on there. I kind of much prefer how they utilize Explosher, whereas A, they don't play in Rainmaker, I think. But B, more importantly, when you are using it in its strong situations, such as Splat Zones, they're playing it with, like, Tent Machine Tri-Slosher. So they have Machine, which can spam a lot of fizzies, then go in when it needs to. They have Tent, which is a pretty slow weapon. It can, like, make space for the Explosher to do things. I think it makes a lot more sense than kind of the double zap comp. Because I think when you look at double zap away from the Explosher, the only team that's got, like, a lot of success consistently with double zap, in my opinion, was Alliance Rogue. And they weren't playing slow with double zap. Like, I think a lot of people mistake double zap for a slow comp because, oh, it's the weapon that paints armor and throws bombs, it must be slow. But I think if you look at how Alliance Rogue play, they played so fast with double zap. They played so fast, they just had 3 people holding forwards with stingrays, like, with a stingray in the back all the time. They didn't have this kind of slow double zap comp, because I really don't like how that plays, personally.
That's the other thing. When I first saw double zap get played in like Japanese scrimmages just that I was watching, there was very clear indications of what one of those zaps was going to be the main slayer and the other one was going to be like the main support. And you could tell because one of them was running double suction bomb, because they wanted to provide a little bit more utility. They want to provide a little bit more paint output in other areas. Whereas one was being a little bit more of a traditional slayer. They just found it better to use the end zap in some cases, whether that's because they wanted the double armor or whether that's because they wanted like maybe a faster fire rate or something like that, as opposed to, or like more condensed accuracy as opposed to the K-shot or something. I don't really know. But I think that's like, you still have, even with the double zap composition, you still traditionally probably want to make sure that you're not saying, oh, you're both kind of doing supporty things, or otherwise you're not going to have someone that's going to be able to dive in and just open up windows of opportunity for your team.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that's a big... I also think they could, like, Supernova in general, could definitely utilize Tetsu, I feel like, a bit more. Is it Tetsu, the Bamboozler player? Because Bamboo's still really good. No one's playing it because, I don't know, there are very little Western players that play Bamboo, but Bamboo's still really good. I feel like they could definitely make a use, of that weapon and player.
But like in Western, like there are more, or at least in Europe, like who's playing like Charger or one-tricking Charger and Thorn instead of Bamboo. Like I only saw, from example, Ice, who really played Bamboo consistently and so on. Like, and if you're one-tricking Charger, in my opinion at least, like if it's way better, like you have more pressure, what I said before or something, and if you get the picks and so on constantly, like the opponents can't go in, and if they're going in, they're feeding. Like, yeah. So Bamboo is still strong for sure, but it depends on the map and which comp and so on.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing I want to ask before we go on to Grand Finals, did anyone see the third place match and do we want to talk about it? Or are you guys like me and you haven't seen third place match? Because I didn't see it, personally.
No.
I didn't actually watch it. I wish I would have, honestly.
Yeah, because it was very close.
But because apparently it was like insanely close. I mean, obviously it went to a game 5. But I think that would also be interesting to know exactly. I mean, that's kind of what I anticipated too, right? Supernova and Sayonara are going to be very close together for the time being, at least for the foreseeable future, especially as Sayonara is continuing to figure out their exact, roster right now. So that was really cool to see. I wish it would have been casted, but unfortunately it wasn't. Because, we got to get out of here in 2 hours. But yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't see it either.
Yeah.
Obviously, you were playing during.
Yeah, I mean, you were playing, so obviously you didn't see it. But I mean, I do find it interesting the Supernova one. I mean, Kbot predicted it. Goated Cedar out here was the only person that thought
Just
Supernova
saying.
would win, and they did. So I mean, getting better and better, as we were talking about before, Kbot's just getting better with the seeding. But I think especially like watching those two games, I thought Sayonara looked better than Supernova. Watching those two games, like, because you were playing at the time, Shak, but I was watching in VC with Para, Kbot, and a few others, and watching them back to back, I really thought like Sayonara looked like the better team, despite both teams losing 3-0. I was surprised to see Supernova win. Maybe they made some adaptations that I don't know about, like playstyle, composition, or whatever, but I'm definitely surprised to take them to see the win. But more importantly, moving on to the Grand Finals, which is the most interesting set, because not only was in the Grand Finals, but it was a 4-3. It was a very, very close set between FT Win and Starburst. So anyone have any opening thoughts? Like, what do you guys think about the set? Was it fun? Was it fun to play in?
Yeah, Shaq, was it fun to play in? Like, what exactly? How did that set rank up there?
Well, if I'm being honest, it felt really bad. We were scrimming like freeze for like the past 2 weeks, or like so like for 3 weeks leading up to the tournament, Zara would stay up to like 5 a.m. in the morning to make a pickup with like 3 different NA players every single day. So we were playing against like we were playing every day, and we felt really good. Like we played against Starburst before the tournament, and like we destroyed them. We played against Supernova, and we destroyed them. And then we played against Sayo, and we destroyed them. The only map we did really bad on, we were really scared about, was Skipper Clams. We played that map like 9 times total, and I think we won it once or twice against older teams in the stream. It was really bad, and we were so happy when the maps were revealed, like the day of, like Skipper Clems wasn't in the tournament because we thought we just like lose that guaranteed. But like, I don't know, the tournament felt like grand finals should have been like a 4-0 in my opinion, because like with all the practice we had and like the scrims leading up in the week, but like Bursty said he himself wasn't playing that good. Every game we lost, he dropped 0 in terms of kills. So he normally gets like 4 or 5. So like he said he was having like tournament nerves. And like at first Kyo said he was playing bad, but I talked to him like earlier in the day and he says he doesn't think he was playing bad. It was probably just like the comp of Starburst, like the double Booyah and like the 4 invincibility because they had Baller and what's it called? Armor 2. He said that like probably Try would have been a better pick because the machine can't really deal with the 4 invincibility as well as the Try could have been. So he said it's probably just like choosing machine because we practiced with like machine like only, like we didn't really use Try at all in scrims, so that's why like we didn't switch to it. But he said that probably switching to it would have made it better for us because like it was kind of a comp problem, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it didn't look like full powers FT win. You guys didn't look terrible, but I think that point about Bursty as well, it could have definitely been a bad day because Bursty for me has always been one of those players that's he's playing support, but he's not just armor botting the entire time. He knows when he's actually able to 2v1 with his teammates and follow up on kills and actually be able to take fights. He's not, someone that's just sitting back and armor botting per se, as good support players should do. Actually walk forwards and help their team. So yeah, it definitely could have just been, a rough tournament. It's nerves. It's a big event, especially because I guess you guys beforehand knew, it could have been your last event for a while. Whether some people don't believe that, some people do, but I guess kind of knowing that it's your last event, you want to win it. You want to do really well, so I can imagine those nerves definitely hitting. But I also want to know, so Noctis, you scrimmed FT win a lot leading up to the NA Open, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Like,
sorry, yeah.
yeah, I don't know. You can talk.
I was gonna say, like, when you were scrimming FT win, did you feel like they were, full power FT win? Did you scrim other teams and think they were going to do as well, or did you expect it to be 4-0s? Did you expect it to be 4-3s? What did you expect going in?
Like from the NA teams, or at least me, like I only or mostly scrimmed like was FT1 was free sale, and it was pretty even, I would say. Like some scrims they won more, some scrims we won more, and scrims they won more. I mean, and it was pretty good. Like they played really well, and we also played really well. So it was really good practice. And at the moment, like FT1 and Freeze were like on the same level and the best teams in my opinion. Like because I had a kind of break or played with Hypnos instead of Alexei and so on. So it was every time really fun to play against them. And I expected that they for all them to be honest, but also at the same time, like Jared, for example, is a really good player. Bren is a really good player. I don't know how often Ice is playing or how active Ice is playing, but he's normally a really good player as well. I don't really know about Ant, but so it was, yeah, kind of really good set and as well unexpected that there is the last match in the grand finals.
So to talk about like those scrims a little bit more, because I think that like that's something that I kind of want to talk about and highlight on is, for one, like how was that connection made that like you guys wanted to be scrim partners, and then what did you do anything like outside of actually playing the game? Like were you giving feedback back and forth? What did that feedback look like? How were you guys improving each other?
Um, okay, so I think I'm pretty sure the way it happened is I said, Zara, I like you. You want to become scrim partners with FT1? And he was like, yeah, sure. And that's it. And there was no feedback exchange
It's
at
true.
all.
Like
No
it was
feedback?
just
Okay, well,
we
We
scrimmed
just played
almost
each other
every
like
day.
every day.
And
Like,
that's it. Like there was always typing in the freeze chat, guys, you want to play FT Win? And we said, yeah, we can. After school, I'm doing sport. All right, let's go. And then Biscuit had school and something, and then here we
oh
go.
yeah. I think like before, the reason I went to freeze, like before usually we'd go to AR. Before every tournament, I'd ask like Alexei or Gray or Kibber, I'd be like, hey, can you make a pickup for us like on Saturday or Sunday for the NA Open so we can practice? Just for then, and then we play AR during the week too because we thought they were the best team. And AR was on break, and we're like, well, freeze is really good because we've been playing freeze a lot and they've been going really even with us, and we thought they got like really really good. And then we played them in the zone, and we just barely beat them too, like 3-2, right? It was really close.
Yeah.
So and Zara, like a few months back, would always message me and be like, "Can FD win scrim?" And I'd be like, "Sorry, dude. Like it's 12 p.m. We're at school right now. Like we can't play. Like, we can't play right now." And he would ask me like very frequently, right? So I'm like, this guy loves me. So I'll just message him and he'll become my scrim partner. So I messaged him and he was like totally down. So like it was cool. And then like yeah, he would just message me and he'd be like, "Yeah, we're free right now." And I'd be like, "Oh, Biscuit has online school. Like we can play later." And he's like, "Oh, Free is gonna fall asleep because he falls asleep at
Yeah,
like 12."
I remember that day, man. Like I was playing, I wanted to play. Theirs wanted to play, and then Free and Creamy were like, we are tired. Like if he's not coming soon, we will sleep. And then no scream anymore.
So
Yeah.
when you were going, like, did you do any reviewing of those scrims? Like, were those being recorded by you guys on FT Win? Were you like watching back that footage, or were you just playing the game a bunch?
We always record every scrim we play. Like we always watch back our stuff individually. Like if we're getting stomped, I think every scrim against Freeze, like it would go like we would like win 3 and then they would win 3 and then it would, like even out at the end. I think every scrim is like that. Like if we get stomped, then we like review together because like then we're like what's going wrong? Like why are we losing so much? But like it was pretty even against Freeze, so like we kind of just all like reviewed by ourselves individually. Like I always just watch them back whenever I'm doing work and I'm looking at it to make sure like, oh, I did something stupid there. I probably shouldn't do that anymore. Like just little things like that.
I personally think VOD review is a really important underutilized, like, kind of part of competitive gaming in general. Everything in life, not competitive gaming. It's like VOD reviews done in like professional sports. I think I don't know nothing about professional sports, but I think I've heard.
Replay.
You know, yeah, it's done.
The X's and O's on the board.
I know nothing. So VOD reviews are done in professional sports. It's done. I know that like Rubik's Cube solvers, they watch their solves and they see what have I done wrong. You know, I think VOD review is such an important part to get good at everything. It's so underutilized. I wish there was a kind of replay system in Splatoon like that other games. That would be amazing. So, you know, like a pause and play, and then we go and watch this, what happened, then we play and pause. That would be, I'm just saying, you know, Nintendo.
Splatoon 3, please.
Replay system in Splatoon 3 would be amazing, because this kind of, but I think in general, if your team can, VOD reviewing is such a good thing to do, because you notice so many extra things VOD reviewing that you don't in game. Like, I've played games before and thought, like, I feel like I'm making no mistakes. Why am I losing so many times? I watch myself, I'm like, God, who is this bot player right now? Like, this guy is complete trash at the game. You don't realize how bad you are until you watch yourself play the game. Like, genuinely.
The other thing that I like to hear from Shak as he puts his hand over the camera is
Dude, my mom walked in. I'm in an interview and I'm doing a podcast and she just walks in and opens the door. I'm like, what are you doing?
My dad was coming in before too, man, and I was like, fuck, how can I?
Sorry.
Bringing it back around. The other thing that I like though is that what Shaq is saying is that sometimes it's not only about like the whole team sitting down and reviewing together. Sometimes it's just like you looking at your own play to saying exactly. I mean, the same thing goes for like commentary too, right? Like that's how I can relate to this. Is I go back and listen to my own commentary sometimes. What am I saying a bunch? How am I synergizing with my partner? What are the things that just sound like they're flat out wrong? You know, like I do that so much, and I just do that on my own for my own like personal benefit and own personal game. Because again, just listening back and thinking about what you're saying, thinking about what you're doing, thinking about how you're playing and how you're fitting into the team, I think is very important. Noctis, what kind of like VOD review tactics have you used?
Like to be honest, like we had Watson, who was playing in the past with us and was also often spectating, like as a bird or as a bird view, like to say us after the matches what we are doing wrong or something. But now we're just always in the VCs playing, scrimming, and whatever we talk after the matches or after the scrim, what we did wrong and so on. Like we already know often what we are doing wrong or if we are doing stuff wrong, but we don't capture it or something. Like it is interesting to hear like that FT1 was or is always uh, recording the matches to see, oh, I did that wrong, or next time we will do this and this stuff like this. Like for the future for us, I will tell my other buddies for sure that we can do this for sure. Like we only have 2 guys who can record actually, but that's enough to see what is who doing.
I mean, I think kind of a famous tweet from a while ago, actually, another thing that some people have done is like, Kbot tweeted about like, oh, and like after he beat FTW in the tournament, it was like, oh, and this is why you don't stream your scrims, because KP were like VOD reviewing the other teams. They're like VOD reviewing the other teams' POVs to learn about how they play and learning on them, which is kind of the step beyond that. But yeah, that's the last note I had to make. What did you say, Kbot?
I was just going to say that, like, even one perspective on a specific game still can provide a lot. You know, even if you're thinking about team play, even if you're thinking, you know, one person or just how the team plays in general, you know, and so while like a solo perspective might not necessarily be like the most influential or most beneficial perspective, it can still provide valuable information to your team in terms of like your individual thought process. And you're still going to be able to know about what the rest of the team is doing at any given point in time. And if you're sitting in a call with the rest of your team at that point, they can probably tell you what they were doing because they know exactly what point of the game because they were in the game. They were playing alongside you. So, you know, having that conversation about thought process, I think, is something that is definitely beneficial and something that a lot more teams should be doing. That's also why I wanted to do like more scrim reviews. I just haven't found the time to, you know, turn on my stream and be like, at +2, someone hop in a scrim right now so I can spectate you guys. I don't know if anyone caught my stream on last weekend, but that was a lot of fun. I hope to do those more. But that's, and like you look at my stream and I'm just like drawing all over the screen, like figure out what's going on. And that's when I'm like not pausing and I'm not going back thinking about what was going on, you know, to a high degree. I'm just like going the same speed of the game, which is often so fast. So taking the time as well to slow down and consider exactly what's going on, I think it's also beneficial.
For sure. All right. Now, I think, unless there's anything I've missed on this topic, we're probably going to move on from NA Open now. So I'm just double checking. Have I missed anything from NA Open?
The only thing that I want to say is about the NA Open, and then we're going to go to FT1 in general, right? But would you say, Shak, that this is the weakest performance out of FT1 comparative to the field in terms of any other previous NA Open?
Yeah, I think so. I think I talked about it like a bit like in chat before, but like basically like the only other time where we dropped more than one game was at PAX. I think that's just because like it was nerves, and also Loki was like playing really well there. But like I think this one was just like we expected to like 4-0, 4-0 like everybody, but like we didn't play like that well.
Do you think that there's a specific reason to attribute to that? I know we talked a little bit earlier, like Bursty was feeling the nerves a little bit. Maybe Bursty also like hasn't had that many high pressure situations, like, you know, the finals of the NA, but normally it's Toon filling that role. Do you think that there's like another reason?
Well, no, I think because I mentioned the comp thing, like because Kyo like on machine like couldn't really do anything against like the K Pro, the heavy, the armor, the K rapid, right? Because there's like 4 invincibilities. I think besides that, like I guess like to maybe why Bursty was like nervous, like what you said, like we've had Toon play with us in every other NA champ, and maybe like that's gonna put pressure on you because this is the first time he's ever played with us because he's never been able to play. Because if you can't go to the like trip that they're giving out, then you're not even allowed to be on the roster, or else you can't go.
What?
So we've never allowed. We planned to play with him like for the 3rd one and the 4th one. We wanted to play with him. We wanted to have a 5-person roster, and I'd be switched out for zones. But then like 4 days before the tournament, I clarified with the TOs, and they're like, yeah, no, if you can't go to like G7, then you can't be on the roster. So this is the first time he's actually had to play like an NA Open tournament. So I'm assuming that's like where the nerves came from. But like besides that, like I don't think like it could have just been an off day because like we practice like in my opinion better than any other team like leading up to these tournaments. Like we'll play like teams that other people like will say like are weaker. Like I'm sure people think DB is weaker, or sorry, Slaughterhouse is weaker than like Sayo, Supernova, and all that stuff, right? But like we'll play against at least every like top 8 contender, or like kind of like top 4 contender once, just so that we get a feel for how they play. Because like I remember when we played with Biscuit, we played against DB before the Open, just to make sure like we knew how to play because their comp was like really slow, like special heavy. And like I remember when we were going to that scrim, I was like, yeah, we're gonna destroy these guys. We lost like the first 4 games in a row, and I was like, okay, this is really bad. But it's because like you have to learn how to like play against like these different comps, right? Like so we make sure we know how to play against every team, and like we eventually like after the first 4 games, like we started winning, we started adapting to their comp, but like even though like we practiced well for this tournament, like I feel like it was just an off day maybe because like we typically have an off day before a tournament, like before Inkstorm. We were playing against Supernova like 4 days in a row. We felt fine, and then we played against Hanron the day before the tournament, and they destroyed us like 9-0. And I'm like, it felt like they were memeing in scrims against us too, and it's like I don't know what's going on, right? But like that was our off day, and then we played against them later in the tournament, and we were able to beat them. Like here, like we didn't have an off day, so I felt like maybe our off day was like actual tournament day.
Shoutouts to Cabin Fever before the last one.
Oh god.
Where you guys had that off day.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think that was an off day. I literally think that like everyone was just stronger than us. Like honestly,
Huh,
Cabin
okay.
Fever.
Well,
'Cause, like,
all right.
All
I
right.
think it's about it on the NA Open. We can talk about the teams in general. So next question for you, Shaq. Is FT1 actually dead? Because you said that FT1 was going to die, and then literally 3 of your players come back and play with Ice in a pickup and win a tournament. So
they said that they wouldn't play. They don't want to play a tournament without me because I'm not gonna play anymore. I don't have time to play anymore. But then their kill was like randomly. It's like, yeah, I like Ice. And then Biscuit's like, oh, there's this tournament for money, and they're like, how much is it? And it's like $100, and Kill's like, oh, nuggets. So then they just signed up for Ice to play the tournament. So I didn't expect it. Like I was at a friend's place, like on campus, and I like come back to my dorm, and I just see like on Twitter like a tweet about grants and FT wins, and I'm like, what? I'm like, we're in a tournament. What's going on? I was like, huh? And I check it out, and they're playing with Ice, and I was like, they're playing with Ice. I was like, I was really confused. I was like, what's happening? Like, we haven't played with Ice in like forever. Like we play with him like from time to time. Like Kill will pick up with him, but like 3 of FT1 playing with Ice, I was like, okay, this is pretty crazy. And I don't know, like I think what's going on right now is I guess I'm not as important as I thought, so that's sad. But they're gonna find other people to play with. Like I don't think that the team's not gonna die. I won't be playing with them, but there's always gonna be other people. They're gonna be playing with like other people to fill the one person gap. And Biscuit's talking about how much he loves playing with a backline now. So I think I'm gonna be permanently replaced at this point with some backline player eventually because he's like, I love playing with a backline. It's so much fun. Like I just die and I just jump back to them. Like with you guys, like I can't die because I'm the longest range weapon, and so like he's having the time of his life. So like they're gonna keep playing without me. I thought they wouldn't, but I mean,
well,
a day after, like I was.
we're all wrong, I guess.
Yeah, bittersweet in a way, but I guess we'll have to see how that turns out. You know, maybe they will. Well, I mean, I'd still like to see the players play. I think the players on FT Win are probably like my favorite American players overall. You know, out of the selection that I'm given. I said the current players on FT Win. You're not on FT Win anymore, Shak. You don't count.
Oh,
But yeah. So I think it'd be really nice to see them play, but it would definitely be different because I mean, you were like the original founder of FT Win. You were the one that told everyone to play. Yeah,
that guy, like it was all me.
Yeah, damn. But maybe it'll be a new name. But I think that FT Win. I think we'll still see. I don't know what you think. No, have you been playing against like? Have you at all been scrimming against any of these players in any sort of pickups or?
Wait, what did you say? Sorry. Oh my god.
I was looking. Have you at all been scrimming against like any of the like ex FD Win members or FD Win members in any like consistent pickups? Like have they been playing any consistent pickups recently? Is there any secret juice you can give us? Or?
After NA Open, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't think. No, I don't think so. No. Like we played the last times. Actually, I forgot, like Astral, I guess, and as well Tendus, Watson, Brian Ochiro, this pickup. But I don't think after any Open we played FT1 or someone of the FT1 members again. Like, or I can't remember at least then.
Gotcha.
We played some Japanese scrims, but that's it. And we didn't play it for the last days at all because like we had school or meeting with friends and so on.
Yeah. I mean that's
Cool.
that's fair.
I mean, late at night.
What was that, Jack?
They've been playing late at night mainly. Like they'll be like, "Oh, this guy's looking for a scrim. Do you guys want to play?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure. I'll get off Mario or whatever." And then they'll just play like at like 8 p.m. or whatever. Like they'll play like late at night. So like these guys are always sleeping at that point, except for Zera, who never sleeps.
Yeah, I know, right? Like you need to imagine, like he said some months ago, all right, if my school starts, I can't play, guys. I'm sorry, but I can't play. Then school starts, he's playing every day, non-stop. Like
Yeah.
and then we say to him, dude, you're playing 24/7. He's like, nah, I'm not playing for 24/7. What are you talking? And so I was like, dude,
So
come on, man.
this was till 5 a.m. every day. Like I was like, oh, dude, like we can't play till like 6 p.m. Like it'll be like 12 a.m. for you. He's like, oh yeah, that's fine. I can play for like 3 hours starting at 12. And I'm like, okay, like sure, it's Wednesday night, like whatever.
Okay,
Like,
so
yeah.
I guess good transition here is going into like freeze because like what's the deal with you guys? Apparently you've been scrimming quite a bit, but we haven't seen you in a lot of tournaments. I guess to be fair, like there's not a ton of tournaments during like EU friendly times.
I
But
know,
if Sarah's is staying up until 3 a.m. anyway, then why isn't he playing in some of the North American stuff?
Sadly, he's not allowed to play an A stuff, man. Imagine he could play an A Open or something, man.
Well, even just like the weeknight tournaments, right? Like
I don't know, like for Euro, there are some weekly tournaments, but there are no prizes or something that it's worth for it to play it, like you know. And like as well, like Nintendo of Europe is saying nothing like about the European Championship. Nintendo of Germany is saying nothing. Like it's all dead beside the online thing. Like in the zone, for example, or other majors, you know what I mean, I think. And yeah, like, but if there's big stuff, we're trying to practice for it. Like, we're kind of sad that we couldn't play, like, it was Inkstone, I guess, last time, the big major or other stuff, or from GSN, the tournament. Like, we couldn't play, like, because, like, me or one of the other members had like real life meeting or on holidays with the family or whatever, like important stuff, what is more important than Splatoon. And we are as well only 4 players. Like in my opinion, it's the best, like if a team or if a top team or a team in general has like 4 players, because like you have a safe lineup. Like you're always playing with the same people, with the same comms, or changing comms, depends on the meta, or if weapons are changing or something. Like in my opinion, it's better if you have 4 players to practice always, instead of changing, ah, right, he can sub, or nah, he's playing. Then it's always a different, like, to play, or the play style. Like not everyone is playing it the same way.
so actually, I think I just realized like when you make that comment, I'm thinking of like the European top level teams right now. Alliance Rogue, Freeze,
That's it. Oh, okay.
whatever
Sendo and Watson
whatever
pick up.
Sendo's team is, X less X. Like those 4 teams pretty much only have 4-person rosters. Like come to think of it, they really don't play with subs that often. And like I feel like you guys don't do a lot of pickups together either, like as a European community in general. Or at least like not that we've seen any recently. So I guess that's kind of part of it, right? Is that like if one of those players on that 4-person roster isn't there, the team just can't play. And like, well,
Yeah,
that's it.
then right,
Yeah.
we don't play. Like
Yeah.
it depends. Like sometimes, like we're doing pickups, or if someone couldn't play, we try to play with a sub. But it also really sucks. Like the good players are already playing in pickups or in their team, so it sucks if we have a guy, or if we are playing with a guy who is not on the same level, or is not playing how we usually play together, or you know. And so yeah, we are just don't play the tournament then. And yeah, or like I enjoy the most to play with my team. Like of course some pickups are really fun. Like if you're playing with guys like close friends as well on the same level, or if you try to help some friend and so on, it's always fun to play in pickups then. But otherwise, it doesn't help really to practice. Like it's a team play, and if you have a team, it's most important to play with your team and to practice. Like of course, if there are no tournaments or something, it's not that much important. But if there is a tournament, then yes, you should practice. But if you don't have a team, like it's the best. Like you have an option. Like you can chill in real life with your friends. You can practice with pickups, or like for your own skill level to improve that, or some other stuff, or check out if I can do a team with them or with him or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a big point. Is that like the idea of like 4-man rosters, like versus like 5 or 6-man rosters, is you do normally see like the 5 or 6-man rosters, I'd say, always play with the same people, apart from I'd say FD Win, which normally change it per tournament, depending like maybe I think back when Squeezer was really good, they have some situations they bring in Bursty until they get told you can't play with Bursty because of because of tournament rules. But I think most teams don't really utilize the idea of having a deeper roster. They just kind of like to stick with the 4 members, which I think makes a lot of sense for, coordination and stuff like that. But I think that if a team committed to having like a 5th member that was always sitting on scrims and they knew when to bring them in and out, and they always had the 5 people there at least spectating and knowing what's going on, I don't think it worked too poorly for teams that make it work, because it means you can have like a bit more flexibility. Let's say if there's a certain sort of weapon that a player doesn't feel. I think it also fixed the issue of, oh, I'm going out tonight, I can't play this tournament, But I think in general a big thing is, because it's the main thing is, where are the EU teams in general right now? Because I mean, we don't really see any in tournaments, and I think that you bring up the point of no prizing, but I also think that a big thing is that there's not really any like kind of competition either, because everyone enters in the zone.
Yeah,
everyone enters in the zone because there's always competition in the zone, but no one enters 4v4
exactly.
Sundays because Alliance Rogues in 4v4 Sundays.
Yeah, true. Like, I don't know, like if there is not a competition, then there's no reason to play. And as well, if there are no prizes, there will be no competition mostly. Like, and like if you see as a good team, like, oh, okay, like this team is playing, like, for example, I don't know, if we want to sign up for a tournament, and if we see, for example, I don't know, like Iris sign up to FTWin or other good pickups, we are thinking, all right, let's play this tournament then. But if there's no team, like, there's no reason to play, like, because you want as well the competition. And like, if you win the tournament, all right, that's cool, but it means nothing,
So my question then is, outside of prizing, and I think I'm going to kind of transition this into the next segment because it's a good time to do it.
Sure.
Outside of prizing, what was going to draw in that competition? What is going to make, teams want to play, especially those teams at the higher level? Because in some cases, like, as a tournament organizer, maybe I don't have access to prizing,
Yeah.
So outside of that, what am I going to do realistically in order to try to get, high level teams to enter, other than just kind of try to shove it down your guys' throats and hope hope you sign up? Because that's the other thing, right? From my perspective, if everyone's sitting there waiting, like in the Spider-Man meme, pointing at one another, being like, "No, you sign up first. No, you sign up first," and like, no one's ever going to sign up.
Yeah, that's true.
You're not gonna like the answer.
What is it?
Yeah, true. Like,
I mean, surely you guys could just like one day go into like, I always had this idea. What if one day someone just goes into like +1 general and it's like, okay, guys, let's all sign up for 44 Sundays this weekend, because then it will be fun. There's no, like, I don't know, the idea of that just seems like interesting for you. Like when someone just goes into general and goes, okay, let's have like 5 good teams enter this so the tournament's actually fun. Because you have a tournament like in the zones, maybe it's because it's really well run, it has a very nice format, the timing's always good, and everyone likes spot zones, so you normally always have a good competition within the zones, despite I think there never being any major prizing. Maybe there was art prizing once, but there was art prizes once, but there's never been consistent prizings, but people still enter it all the time. So like, how would a 4v4 Sundays get teams entering without the prizing, in the same way that in the zones gets all the people entering without the prizing?
That's a difficult question.
Yeah.
I can't really answer.
So it's an even more difficult question for people like me, because there are times where I go, okay, I threw a cast at this thing. Sometimes I have like a very good commentary lineup as well. I threw, a decent, like, generally well-received format that, obviously has seen iterations upon iterations on. And sure, maybe it's Swiss for the first couple of rounds, but then you get your single elimination bracket and it's properly seeded, like, what else realistically is there for me to do other than what? Try to go find the endorsements of other people, other players, other commentators? Like, realistically, as a tournament organizer, if I'm in the shoes of a 4v4 Sundays, what can I do? Where can I go? Like,
can I just very quickly say, I feel really bad for ripping on 44 Sundays. I've had fun playing your tournaments,
I'm not saying,
yeah.
Well, even Saturday Morning Coffee is a good example of this too. No, Saturday Morning Coffee is a good example of this too. Endgame TV, it has a production. It has like a well-run production. Sometimes the casting personnel just like can't quite make it, and so we throw on a couple of new people who are trying to get in like the repetitions. But like otherwise, like, what can I do? It's a double elimination tournament. Doesn't everyone love double elim?
Well, To be honest, it's a really good point. Like what Matt said, like that Sandos in the zone like has mostly no prizes, but everyone is playing it only because of its zones. Like it doesn't really make that much sense because there are other tournaments with only zones or good casters or good format or something. And it's a really good point or a really good question. Why are the high level teams are not playing it only because no prizes? Like I don't know, man.
I feel like maybe like the thing with like in the zone is like whenever it first popped up, I think it had like a really large like amount of teams in it because I think there were prizes at first.
Yeah.
So like in the first one, I think there was like an art prize or something. So I think there were like a lot of teams at first, and it went like pretty well. And I guess in a sense, it was like treated like a major, so to speak, with all the teams that signed up. So I think generally, just because they had a lot of signups the first time, I feel like for every like other rendition, like the second, the third, like going to like the 22nd now, like they just typically get a lot of signups. And I think it's because like it's known to be like a tournament that gets a lot of top teams in it. And I don't know, like even though they don't have prizes now, like everyone signs up, and I guess it's because I don't know. I don't know honestly. Like I guess it doesn't make sense to me either. Like I know Sayonara, they'll like enter random weeklies, and then we'll see them entering random weeklies, and then we'll want to enter too. But besides that, like if you can get like maybe one top team like to enter, just because they're free, like it'll incentivize. But I'm kind of like honestly, like I'm as lost as you guys. Like I don't know really besides like prize money, or if you get like a really good cast of like 9 and like like the other really good
9
casts.
and literally
Yeah,
anyone.
or in
Just
Europe,
9, just 9, just 9
You're
can
normally
solo cast
running
the
it.
whole thing.
I
No,
sure in Europe it's
like
Matt and Toby as well for sure, man. They're goats in casting, man.
yeah, like a really good casting team probably would be it. Besides money, but other than that, I'm not really sure to be honest.
Yeah, I guess one big thing with kind of in the zone is they kind of drew the people, like they could say they drew people in with the first couple of weeks, let's say, with prizing plus like interesting format, because we didn't really have a consistent zones only tournament at the time. So you had interesting format plus prizing, it draws people in, and then I was like, okay, this tournament was really fun, let's enter it again. So I guess that's the main thing at the end of the day. If you make a tournament that the players sit down, they play, and they're like, wow, I had fun. Maybe not this or that or this or that, but they just had fun. Then they're going to want to enter again. You like doing things that are fun over and over. If there's no like actual prizing, then the main incentive is going to be enjoyment. So I guess that's like one big thing. And I think that also leads into good formatting. I don't know what your guys' personal favorite formats are, but I really like how Sendu kind of experiments with different formats, especially as of recent. I thought that double elimination groups are really, really nice. I love double elim groups.
Yeah.
Kbot, do you want to speak? Because I love double elim groups. I was a player in that tournament, and as a player, I loved double elim groups.
So, in my opinion, double elimination groups, sure, they're probably great for the top teams who can 2-0 their 2 opponents and then have a little bit of a break before the rest of the bracket starts. But if you're looking at the 2 and 3 seeds, they play 3 total matches. 2 of them are against the same exact opponent. So maybe I guess the only benefit is that it's a close match. But in my opinion, if I'm like kind of on that, probably somewhere seated close to the middle of the tournament, I'm entering the tournament to get experience playing a bunch of different teams, not just playing the same team. And then if I lose to the same team twice, I don't get to move on to top. Because that's the way that seeding is going to work. And I think that was the case for, I forget what the exact number of groups it is. There were like 12 groups or so. And I think that was probably the case for at least 6 of them, where the 2 and 3 seeded teams in every group faced each other round 1. One team won, one team lost. And then they face each other in round 3 again, because that's just the nature of the format for the people that we're going to advance now. So like when I'm sitting here, I'm going like, what's the point? Like at that point, you might as well just say, okay, the 4th seeded team can't enter Top Cut. The 1st seeded team automatically gets a pass into Top Cut, and the 2 and 3 just play a best of 7 in order to determine who moves on. Like that's my perspective, is that like, sure, teams still have to go through the format. Anyone can technically win. But when you're looking at teams that are properly seeded, it's hard for like even that lower team to actually do anything.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I feel like people might also complain because, like, if like you said, like the teams have to play against each other twice. Like, if one team beats the other team, but then the second time they play, the other team wins, and then they move on instead. Like, I feel like there's probably gonna be like a
Exactly.
lot of people mad.
Like the only difference between like a weird tiebreak scenario in Swiss and a weird tiebreak scenario in like that double round robin structure, say the second seed beats the third seed in round 1, but the third seed beats the second seed in round 3. The third seed advances just because they won the last match.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. Say the game counts were the exact same. The only difference is the fact that that third team, won the second match, so therefore they move on. It's like, but if you look at the overall game counts, like those were on completely different maps too, in a best of 3 where there's even more variability. It's like, in my opinion, it just doesn't make sense in order to make sure you're getting the best teams out every time. And sure, the best team is still going to win the tournament almost regardless of what format you throw in there. But like some of the nuances here, when you look at those double elimination groups, seem a little wonky to me.
All right. So I think like I see both of your points, and I definitely accept them. I see the I see the kind of cons of doubling in groups, but at the same time, I think kind of the whole point of double elimination is you winning the later matches. Because I mean, you can have a regular tournament where you lose to a team early on and then you win later, and because you won later, you knocked them out of the tournament. That's the nature of double elimination. If it happens in groups, if it happens in the actual bracket, that's kind of what happens. And I don't really mind. I mean, maybe this is because what I was going to say. This is where I have the player experience for once, because I am the number 2 seed in the group here. I'm, unlike everyone else here that's number 1 seed or not playing. I was number 2 seed in group, right? And we did have to play the same opponent twice. But the thing is, we kind of like the pickup that I was playing with for a while. We had this kind of problem where round 1 in tournament we'd be really rusty. Even if we scrimmaged before, we just weren't in the mindset. And then we choked our round 1 match against a team we should have beat, and we were like, okay, God, not in a normal group situation, we were out of the tournament then. But I really like I really like that comeback factor. I mean, it's not true technically, but if every other match, so if we lose to first seed, if we then beat fourth seed, we're out of the tournament, right? Or out of top 2.
Well, no, okay, so in round robin 14 groups, if you lose match 1. I guess hypothetically, if you lose match 1 to the third place team, then you're probably most likely to get third place because you're most likely to lose the first seed and most likely to beat the fourth seed. If you beat the first seed or you go like 2-1 with that first seed, there's a chance that you can try to force some tiebreak thing, but I guess that head-to-head would come in. So I guess technically you're out, but
yeah,
but then again, think about that from the other team's perspective. They beat you earlier, and now just because you beat them later, you move on.
But that still applies.
Losing perspective.
But that still applies to normal double elimination. Is my point, and that's why I don't mind it too much. I like that comeback factor of if you're then playing better at the later stages and the actual this is now the final match, you need to win. If you're playing better at the more important point, then you will make it on, which is kind of the same as a grand finals. You could win in a losers final. You could win in losers finals, then lose in grand finals. I guess you have bracket reset at that point, but you could win in semis and losers finals, right? You could bring up that same argument, but I think that's nature of double elimination, in my opinion. And I don't know. I do like double elimination groups. I don't know. Have you played much double elimination groups, Noah? What's your perspective?
Were you Noctis? Were you watching like any of In the Zone last time around, like last month when this happened?
He played.
Yeah, I played
the
last times, or the last time at least. But I don't know, like in my opinion, like the best format is what Matt say, like double elimination, because like I love as well like the fact that if a team loses, for example, like I don't know, for some reasons they're playing bad or some things are unlucky or a bad map or whatever, like they can come back, like they're not out of the tournament and it's over, game over, bye bye, like they're coming back. And that's a cool fact. Like for example in Swiss or other stuff, in Swiss in my opinion it's often really random, like if other teams playing against, or if normal teams playing against more weaker teams, or top teams playing against lower teams, and some other top teams playing with our other top teams. So it's often really random, like in Swiss, that a top team is out of the tournament, but a random team is going in the other bracket. Like it doesn't make sense, like in my opinion. That's
So,
why.
in my personal opinion, first of all, Swiss to Top Cut technically shouldn't exist.
Mhm.
Swiss is supposed to be its own standalone format. Now, we use Swiss into Top Cut because people wanted to end with a nice grand finals bracket storyline, whatever. But I think that the implementation of Swiss into Top Cut, especially by things like BNS, was poorly used. And the reason why it was done specifically in like BNS, they took 64 team Swiss into top 8 cut. But every single time there were teams that just lost once and were out, just because that was the way the tiebreaker algorithms worked for Swiss. Here's the thing. A 64 team, no one would be complaining if it was a 64 team Swiss tournament into top 16 top cut.
Mm-hmm.
And as a matter of fact, SQSS was like up to 128 team Swiss or like almost often 96-ish team Swiss into top 32 cut. So anyone that had any kind of reasonable shot of making top 4 was still included in that bracket because the bar was just lowered for entry. If that bar is lowered for entry, then you're fine, right? Like realistically, there's going to be some teams that get cut out of like the top 32 that have 2 losses. But at that point, the teams that have 2 losses, most likely you're either A, having a bad day and you deserve to be cut, or B, you're not going to end up winning the tournament anyway. So like realistically, it shouldn't matter at that point. But that's the reason why like the Black and Spoon format of old was just the reason why it was done is because they wanted to ensure as much game time as possible in groups, and also get bracket done as soon as possible, and also not last until like 2 or 3 in the morning Eastern time, because that tournament was running rather late. So, but that's the reason why stuff like that, and that's the reason why everyone hated Swiss, is because BNS there were always teams that just made 9th every single time and could never make it into top cut. Like that's the reason why people hated Swiss, because people would point to that. My argument here is, okay, if you take that to top 32, top 16, typically there's no more worries.
I mean, I think in general, Swiss is not a nice format to have, especially when it's like, the 7-round Swiss tournaments are not nice. They're not nice for the TOs that are spending so much time doing it and getting all the complaints. They're not nice to the players. I think, in my opinion, they're only really fun for the players around the middle of the pack because you get a lot of close games. When you're a bottom team that gets smashed 7 games in a row, you're not having fun. Yeah, you get a lot of...
No. They don't get smashed 7 games in a row. They get smashed for the first 3, and then they find opponents. But
I'm saying there are some that will, though, is what I'm saying. My point is.
Not necessarily, or at the very least, towards the very end, they should get one, unless they're just severely outclassed with the rest of the field.
But I still mean that the teams that are severely outclassed are not going to even have fun. I don't think the extra game time of losing 2 games very hard to losing, let's say, 4 games very hard and a couple of close ones, then a win at the end, it's not much more fun. It's exhausting, and you feel like you're committed to it because you have a team around you that wants to play. And I think it's even less fun for the top teams that are winning 7 games in a row. Like, personally, I'm not a Swiss fan.
Same.
I don't know.
I still am, because I still think it's the most likely that you're going to get closest matches around the middle of the pack, even around the higher pack and lower end. And sure, you get stomped or you do the stomping for the first couple of games, but eventually as things ramp up, you're supposed to find people with similar opponents. And sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But like, again, Swiss is supposed to be its own standalone format, right?
But
like,
it's your favorite format, right? Or
is it my favorite? It's probably the one that I default to the most because I like the most of what it does. It's also easier to manage than making sure that double elimination is happening like all on a consistent schedule, and making sure that round robin groups are happening all on a consistent schedule. So in some cases, like having the set, like, okay, you need to have your match done by this amount of time, or otherwise we're pulling the plug on the match. In some cases, Swiss is just a little bit easier to run. But like from an organizing perspective, but I still think that like overall, Swiss is going to get you something that, because here's the other thing is that like, as a tournament organizer, I have to balance, especially for the tournaments that I host with Endgame, for the tournaments that I ran for SQSS in the past, I have to balance the entire community's want, right? So not only am I thinking about what do the top players want out of their tournament, but I also have to think, what do the mid-level players want? What do the low-level players want? What do the people who are just trying out competitive for the first time want, right? I have to think about all of those and throw them all together. And so when I'm doing that as a tournament organizer, when I'm thinking about formats for everyone, Swiss seems the most appealing for some of those reasons where, as we get further along, those teams that keep losing are going to keep facing against teams that keep losing. And then also, one of the points of feedback that I've gotten in the past was, oh, round robin groups is a complete waste of time because it's always a stomp for the top level teams. So as that progresses, then the top level teams are also going to start facing teams that are going to get more challenging as the tournament progresses. So there are a lot of reasons why I find Swiss appealing, and that's oftentimes the default format that I personally use. But obviously, there is some merit to the fact that double elimination is, beneficial for teams. You can always feel like you have a shot no matter what happens. I don't know. Shaq, do you have any other thoughts? I know that you had something before I just went on a little bit of a ramble there.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like it's really hard to cater to everyone because, like,
It is.
Like with your idea of Swiss, like if you raise it to like the entry is no longer top 8, but it's like top 16 or 32, then it's gonna like add like an extra bit to the tournament, and the top players will complain because they're like,
Yeah.
I've been playing like for like 3.5 hours of Swiss, and now I have to play for an extra hour and a half
Yep.
just to win the tournament.
Yep.
If you don't do that, then you have like the mid-level players like don't get enough games, or like the low-level players just get smashed, like you said, right? So I mean, I don't think there's like a perfect solution. I feel like when Sandow does the underground bracket, like it's not perfect, obviously, because like you still get like some teams will just lose round 1 in the double elimination bracket, or like they'll lose round 1 and round 2, like winners round 1, winners round 2, they'll lose, and then they'll lose round 1 in the underground bracket. But like I feel like it kind of helps, like it caters more to the top players than the mid-level players, but then you also have the problem again with like the low-level teams, like they probably
Right.
still just lose as bad. So like it's really hard, I'd say, just to like find like a really perfect format.
So first of all, for that reason, there is no perfect format, right? You just have to pick which one you want to go for.
Definitely.
Sendo's tournaments are oftentimes geared towards the higher level, or even geared towards more that mid level, trying to showcase some of this competition. That's also part of the reason why Sendo's tournaments get so much competition, and like so much higher level competition, because they're geared and set up for those kinds of people. When you look at other things like, say, Low Ink is set up in a Swiss style, and then they're set up with, after that Swiss style, you go into your own bracket where you're like in tiers of 32 or whatever at this point. So, as you go on, there's something there for everybody to do. And that's going to be favoring more of the lower level teams. And oftentimes, like, I use the Swiss justification a lot of times because I still think that much the same way that it works at the bottom, it'll work at the top where teams will start getting competitive. But yeah, I mean, there is no perfect tournament, right?
Yes.
There just isn't. If there was a perfect tournament, in a perfect tournament, every single individual team would play every single other opponent in the entire event.
Yeah.
Okay?
True,
That would
true.
be
The
huge.
most complete amount of data that you could possibly. Oh, and by the way, they would also play on every single game type in the game, or every
True.
single game type in a certain map pool, so that you'd have the most complete amount of data for who's better. But guess what? That tournament would take like a week to complete, or
You guys
like
want to-
months to complete.
You guys want to do the
So-
92 map mode tournament?
Best of 31 Turf War is my favorite.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, there is no perfect tournament, and even then, in like that extreme scenario where everybody's playing everybody, there's still going to be so many tiebreakers. There's still going to be so many things that come up over the course of the tournament that's just going to be like, there's no winning. There's even this doesn't work, So as tournament organizers, I know that we try our best to provide stuff, and a lot of times it is a picking and choosing of who do we want to cater to and where do we want to cater to them. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
I don't even know where we started on like Sendo's in the zone thing, but
I guess
think it was a good
maybe
discussion.
what would help, maybe top teams sign up would then be like, I guess like the faster the tournament is for them might incentivize them to play, because like none of the top players want to play like really long tournaments. Like we hate playing long tournaments because then we'd rather just practice.
Hey, guess
But
what?
if like the tournaments are shorter and you get like the bragging rights, like I feel
So,
like our top
guess
players would
what?
wanna-
I hate. So like the top players are like, oh, we don't want to play in 7-hour long tournaments, but I'm sitting there for like 9 hours in front of my
Yeah.
computer because I'm doing the 2-hour long or hour long seating process before, and then helping people in help desk, monitoring check-in, and like I'm sitting there for longer than you guys. You think I enjoy sitting in front of my computer for literally the entire day? No, I'd rather go enjoy the rest of my day, play video games myself. But I mean, and again, that comes down to what is a perfect format. There is no perfect, right? Everything's to some degree is going to take some amount of time. It's not just going to be, oh, done it over with an hour. But that's also like one of the reasons why the top level enjoys playing in things like, the Japanese tournaments, where a lot of the rules are in considerations for lower level are completely thrown out the window. It's like you're playing best of 3 splat zones only, random maps, like,
Yeah, so brutal.
and you just do it in 20 minutes or else it's a loss. Like, what now?
I hate that stuff. Sometimes I just like in Area Cup, I'll play against the tent team, and then they'll get old tent maps. I'm like, okay, well, I enjoyed losing round one. Like, great.
Or
Yeah,
if you play in groups where there's so weird comps, or like
Oh,
the winners of the other Japanese tournaments, like, and if you lose for once, you have no chance to go
Yeah.
to the other bracket. But it's easier and faster for sure, but for lower teams or something, it really sucks.
I mean, I think that's one big thing about Area Cup as well. You look at like today, I think it was Alliance Rogue had a really
Yep.
good showing, but then they lost to Yomo's team. And like they won the tournament, so then you drown in pools because you lost to Yomo's team. It can be really unfortunate like that. But I think one last thing I probably want to touch on tournaments before we move on is, what do you guys think about how map pools have been implemented? Because I think overall it's definitely a positive change, but I think the two main things I want to go over is, do you think there should be any changes to how map pools are done? Do you think there should be a global map pool? And do you think every map should be played in some capacity? Like, or do you think it's okay to keep Moray banned forever? Or do you think it should be brought back, and do you miss Moray?
Personally, I'm fine with Moray zones. Like, I think zones on I hate old Splatoon 1 maps that aren't Moray and Anchovy.
Wait, you like Moray more than other Splatoon 1 maps?
I hate Walleye, I hate Port, I hate Arowana.
I hate
I think
Walleye.
those are like the worst maps in the game.
Do you like Moray more than Black Belly?
No, I like Black Belly.
Okay.
I'm the only
Black
one.
Belly, man, that's the best map. Hello,
Yeah, I like
Gunnar,
Black
hello.
Belly. Because Black Belly's Splatoon 1, I was one, yeah. But yeah.
But like I think like personally, like if I like kept playing, like I would always advocate for ban Arowana, Port, what was the other one? Walleye. I never like camp. Like camp zones is fine. I hate camp just because like it's like the only map where like having like 4 really long range weapons is viable, and so I can't play like shot like that properly, or like I have to play like splash and inkjet spam or something like that. Like I don't like maps where it kind of like forces you to like, I guess, switch like if you're like a shot player, like, and you play like short range shooters, like camp kind of forces you to like not play that, or else you're just inherently at a disadvantage with comps. Like I don't like maps like that. I feel like it's kind of like the same for Port. Like it's really like laney and everything. Same thing for Arowana. Like you have the closed areas, like long range weapons are really good there. Rays super abused like on the maps. Like, but that's just personally me. But like I like having like, I guess, more controversial map picks. Like Albacore Clams, I feel like is like a lot of people probably don't like it, but also like a lot of people haven't really played it, so like you don't really know if it's like good or bad, right? Like I find experimenting, it's just like there are a few maps where I just feel like are really bad from Splatoon 1 that like I wouldn't want to play.
Ninja, before you chime in, I want to hear from Noctis.
Yeah.
What?
Go on ahead. Map pools, your opinions of like
Yeah.
how they're currently implemented.
Like I don't know, like in my opinion, I like every map or almost every map beside some exceptions. Like in my opinion, like Camp Triggerfish is, yeah, okay, it forces you sometimes or always that you need to play a different weapon, but in my opinion it makes it more fun or more different, like that you're not playing always the same weapon, the same comps, or as a spectator as well, or if you're just a casual and just watch the streams, it's cool that you see different comps, different styles. And for example, in Camp Trigger for zones, you need to go like 2 go on the right side, 2 go on the left side, and it's also really cool to see it, like how they're double teaming, how they're doing it, or sometimes it's a 3v1 on one side if they're not really coordinated sides, for example. But personally, I hate Walla as well because it's really hard, like to get the retake and so on. Like if you have control, it's totally fine. Like if you get the picks, if they're going in, it's cool. But if you are coming from the spawn and need to do the retake, like it really sucks in my opinion. Uh, like for example, zone's kelp dome also sucks for the zone. Like you're painting so much and it's sometimes not enough to catch the zone, which really sucks. Like, or in different other modes, like for example TC on, I don't know, TC Sturgeon, for example. Like if you get snowballed for once, like it's game over. Like that really sucks on some map combination and mode combinations, but yeah, I don't really say like I hate this map so much, ban it, and so, like
Um,
no.
so what I will say is, as a tournament organizer, honestly, I'm listening, right? I'm watching everything that's going on, and I will say that there are going to be picks that I make in my map pool that some people are not going to agree with, and you know what? That happens. But the other thing is that the other thing that I'm thinking about when I'm designing my map pool is I'm thinking about, okay, am I including counter picks in my tournament, or what does that look like, right? Because that sole counter pick rule was something like for Inkstorm, I included something like Splat Zone's New Albacore Hotel over Splat Zone's Muscle Forge Fitness, because New Albacore Hotel I felt like is just a little bit adding a little bit more diversity to the overall map pool as opposed to Muscle Forge Fitness. And then I have to cut down on a couple of maps because I only want maybe 25 to 30 map mode combinations over the course of the entire tournament, right? So that's a relatively digestible pool for teams to practice on. And it's also limited enough to the point where they just can't pull out a map out of left field, you know? So, you know, there are also like sorts of considerations that I have to make in terms of counter picks. How flexible do I want my map pool to be? How limited, how broad, how specific am I only picking the best maps, or am I picking the ones that might not be as balanced but might offer a little bit more of diversity or things like that? Especially when we start talking about things like the Genesis map pool and like map striking. You know, how many of those like I can get even more diverse there, because now, you know, the teams are going to have the opportunity to strike away a couple of maps that aren't going to be able to get picked. So I think that, like, you know, that's also something that we have to consider about, is especially counter picks, how that's going to play into things. And the other thing I do want to say is that a lot of map pools right now, at least things when you look at GSM map pools, when you look at EGTV map pools, a lot of those share maps from tournament to tournament. So, and I don't know if anyone else has really picked up on that. Of course, like, you know, you mentioned Port Mackerel doesn't make an appearance. Moray Towers doesn't make an appearance. Things like that. But, you know, these things are kind of shared. And so while a global map list hasn't necessarily been implemented, and maybe as Noctis said, you know, having a little bit more flexibility where each tournament has like their own specific map pool, where it's like, hey, these are the 30 maps for this tournament, offers a little bit more of a change up from, you know, every day-to-day pace, as opposed to these are the 30 maps that are going to be played in every tournament. And if you don't do this, then why are you even signing up, you know? So yeah, I think like to that point, offering a little bit more of that diversity in map pool is important.
But there is no perfect map pool, or it is impossible. Like there is a perfect map pool because everyone has a different opinion. Like some people really love Murray, some people say, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" and so on. Like, for example, you know, like I don't know, like everyone has a different opinion. Like the low level teams, the high level teams have a big different opinion about map and modes.
I kind of think the point I wanted to make is kind of a mix of what Kbot and Noctis just said, the two things. Because I think the thing is, the one thing about some map pools I look at, it literally just looks like the map pool was made by a frontline player. Because I feel like if we look at the majority of players, I'd say probably like over 60% of players prefer to play T-Tech or a similar sort of frontline weapon. Which means, you're going to prefer playing Inkblot over Camp. Obviously, you're going to prefer playing Inkblot over Camp. So then, does the argument come, if you're going to allow, you know, Black Belly in every tournament, do we start allowing Camp for these slower paced teams? Because I look at a team like maybe Slaughterhouse's comp, I feel like maybe they don't like playing on Camp, but I think their comp could do really, really well there. So then, is it unfair to have, like, you know, 8 frontline map modes, and then we have 2, you know, slower map modes? I think that, again, like Kbot said, I really like how most teams do end up, most tournaments do end up including the fair counter picks, but I do think in general, should we start allowing, you know, maybe more Schellendorfs or more camps or more stuff like that, because, you know, maybe these teams that play slower need their counter picks because, you know, they've used their one counter pick. Well, now all I've got left is like Black Belly, Inkblot, and Mako. That's not really good for us.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're like running a little bit low on time here, and so I think we've hit that pretty handily there. In terms of that, I think that was good discussion though. Like overall, thank you both for like chiming in and providing your expertise. I hope I was also able to like provide why things happen. I'm not saying that like, you know, you guys are wrong and I'm totally correct, you know, but I am going to say that like, this is the reason why these things happen. Like these are things that like I have thought an extensive amount of time on, you know, as I continue preparing. for the next upcoming event, whenever that might be.
All right. I think if we're good on tournaments, then we're going to quickly go through, very quickly, right at the end, the legendary segment, Matt's Player of the Week. So, we got Matt's Player of the Week coming up. We have to find out, who's it going to be. I'm not going to lie, I feel kind of guilty with this one, because after last episode, it was such a meme pick, just being everyone that voted Turf War. I was like, okay, I want to try and think of like a genuine one, not just someone that makes me laugh on Twitter, someone that really stood out to me this week. So that's what I thought of, right? And then I kept thinking about it, and it was 2 hours before the podcast started. I was like, okay, I have no one. I literally have no one. So instead, instead of that, I have gone for, as my Player of the Week this week, Bursty. And the reason Bursty is my Player of the Week is because he took it right on Albacore and won the tournament. Sorry, not Anchovy. He took it right on Anchovy and won the tournament. Game 7, Grand Finals for NO Open number 4. He finds the perfect situation to run Rainmaker right side, and he wins the tournament. And that is why Bursty is my Player of the Week. That's the pure reason.
Everyone says he's the best Canadian, and I hate this, bro. You just...
Oh my god.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have better Player of the weeks you would have picked, people that really stood out to you, because I didn't know who to go for. I ended up picking Bursty because he took it right with Rainmaker. I wanted it to be someone from FD Win, so.
Someone who stood out to me last night while I was playing, there was actually an Australian pickup, I was casting.
Yeah.
For testing grounds last night at Inkling Performance Labs. And one player that really stood out to me was Shockwave. He was on the Nautilus for that event, and it was a pickup of like 2 other Australian players and Isabel. And like Shockwave was consistently popping off on the Nautilus. And okay, some people are gonna be like, oh, okay, well, there's Aussie lag, Aussie North America lag, whatever. And like, sure, that happens. But even still, like, you don't get just like 17 splats and assists by mistake, right? Like, so Shockwave's a name that you don't typically hear of, and everyone's like, oh, okay, Australian Splatoon, how good actually is it? It was actually like pretty decent last night, and that team actually made it to top 4. So that was impressive for me. That's you asked for a suggestion. There's your answer.
All right. I think Shockwave's a great player. That makes sense. I think Shockwave's a really nice up-and-coming player. I think we're going to see a lot more from him coming up. I think as he play, because he's been playing a lot more with the Western scene. But yeah, I mean, I went for Bursty. I think I don't know. It's going to be one of FDWin's last tournaments, maybe. So I decided to go for someone. I didn't really know who to go for, so
okay.
I liked the little meme.
It's not going to be FTWin's last tournament. It's going to be Shak's
last tournament. Maybe I should have done it for Shak for a tie-in.
At least
it's too late.
Shaq's last tournament for like a year, until next summer, and then he's not going to have anything to do, and he's going to play Splatoon again.
If Nintendo gives me money, I'm back in, baby.
Look, once the award's locked in, the award.
Japan. Maybe I'll get to go to Japan for once.
Wait, I just realized.
That would be huge.
I just realized on the picture section I forgot to rename. So right now Noctis Power and Shaq's Taeyang. You know what? I remembered everything else. It was good. There was nothing wrong with production today until the last moment. Everything was going well today in the last moment. I remembered everything. I remembered. Okay, well, guys, don't remember. It's Noctis and Shaq, but I think that's gonna. I think that should probably bring us to the end. Noctis and Shaq, not Power and Taeyang. I remembered everything until that moment. Next week will be good, I promise. No more production mistakes. Yeah. I mean, thanks for coming on. I don't know if you guys have any closing statements, any plugs, but yeah, I think that's what we're going for today. But yeah, you 3 go and plug yourself.
21 years old, multi-millionaire, 4-time Lamborghini owner, 4-time North American champion.
4-time winner of arms.
The flex.
I'm starting a workout channel soon. I'm working on an ASMR channel, and soon we're going to be doing food reviews on the food review channel. But yeah, 5hack _ YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of it.
LinkedIn. I might hire you one day, maybe.
Jeez. Noctis, going ahead.
I don't know what to say, man. Like, just a big thank you, man, that we're here and to discuss everything. And I really appreciate that for real. But I don't know what to say else, man. Besides hobby,
Yeah, it was definitely a good episode. I think we had a lot of very insightful discussion. YouTube video is going to go live whenever Ninja actually gets around to posting it, which might be tomorrow, might be in about a week. Who really knows? Otherwise, of course, tournament shoutouts this week are In the Zone is happening not In the Zone, In the War is happening tomorrow. Turf War tournament tomorrow. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check out Sendo's Twitter. I know that I tweeted it at some point. I think there's next Wednesday is Swimmer Sync 3 hosted by IPL. They made a better map list last week, so hopefully they can continue making improvements in that regard. And I feel like there's stuff happening. Oh, I think next weekend is Region Cup, which is the Area Cup knockoff that's been brought to the West, which is the same sort of format, hosted by, I say that jokingly, hosted by Terra and Lag. Should have some Japanese teams as well. So be on the lookout for that. Of course, you can find all that. I'll be retweeting crap throughout the week, as I normally do. Also, I just posted the Talk Speed Up Discord server in the chat. I'll do it again, and I will ask Ninja to link it on the YouTube video description this week.
I did.
Discord server. Oh, maybe he does already link it. I don't really know. I don't actually go back and watch these things. But join the Discord server if you'd like to come hang with us, I guess. You'll also get to see, you might be able to see who the next guest is before anyone else does if you have the Discord server and if you're paying attention. So definitely do that. We'd love to have a little bit more interaction and back and forth, even outside of this podcast. So yeah, I think that's it for me. Ninja, send us home.
Yeah, I mean, my only plug is my own channel, which is the Zone. I get the freest plug in the world, so I can't really do much else apart from saying make sure to watch the next Talk Speed Up. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to talk about some more stuff. So yeah, keep on the check for that. I mean, if you want to see the Talk Speed Up updates, then I guess you have to follow my Twitter. That's where I post about it. So you're kind of forced to do that by the fact that that's where I talk about Talk Speed Up. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks so much for coming on. I had a lot of fun today. But yeah, I think that's all for today. So yeah, goodbye. Stop me if you want anything more to say. But I
might be a streamer later tonight. I don't know.
All right.
Maybe it'll be a +2 scrim review. Maybe it'll be a +2 scrim review tomorrow. I don't know. Stuff's gonna happen probably this weekend.
All right. Well,